Hello and welcome. Today's exciting episode is a look back at everything I made in 2022. Perfect jacket. So I couldn't quite face the idea of hauling absolutely everything out that I made last year. So I just got the jackets out, but I will insert pictures of and footage of the other things. But it was mainly jackets that I made. And this was the first one. And I actually made the jacket, it was the last video, well, the first video I posted in 2021 of me making something, but it was also the last one for that year. And then the first video I made in 2022 was me doing the beading for this jacket. And yeah, after I finished it, I was like, oh, Halloween colours. Yeah, it really did not dawn before then, but I love the tweed. It's an Italian tweed with lots of different types of textures and colours in there. It's fabulous. And next up, we have an equally over-the-top beaded trim. This one, the tweed is a Linton tweed from Linton Tweeds in the UK. And I ordered it from their website and it looked sort of more peachy. And so I was like, peach and raspberry. And I was like, peach Melba. And then when it arrived, it was very much beige with a little bit of pinky red in there. And I was so disappointed. But then I was like, no, I can't let go of that peach Melba idea. So yeah, I did the beaded trim in in those colours, and I think it really suits it. It sort of brings the beige up to peach, so I was really happy with the way it turned out. Next, I just made a plain green jacket using the Vogue 7975 pattern. It's my favourite. It's pretty much most people's go-to jacket when they want a Chanel style Karl Lagerfeld era jacket. And then the next one I made was this red jacket, but I just made the jacket. I didn't do the beading for a long time. So yeah, it's plain red with red silk lining. And this was Valentine's, February last year. So I was doing red and pink. And then this jacket, I'd actually made it years before, but I'd never got around to beading it or doing the beaded trim for it. The fabric itself is a velvet of red and black, and it's just exquisite. It has flowers and leaves, foliage woven into the fabric, and it's just exceptional. I love it, and I didn't want to mess it up. And I thought just a plain black trim, beaded trim would I don't know, be a little bit disappointing. And a red one, I wasn't sure if that was a bit too much. So sort of split the difference and did red and black. And it just took so long to make. But it's gorgeous. But I think if it was a little less, I would wear it a little more. But I do still love it. Speaking of completely over the top, here's another one. And what I love about my banana Chanel is it's a Chanel tweed, but the lining I used is the colour of actual bananas, and the skin, the outer jacket is like the skin of bananas. It's got little bits of green, little bits of brown, and it's mainly different yellows, and I love that about it. I just love it so much. And I just, went to town with this beaded trim as well. If there's just different playlists for each quarter, like I divide things into first quarter of 2022, and that's where you'll find this. Or there's another, if you just go to the playlist page, there's another one for beaded trims, and you'll see this one in there, and it's just me making it layer by layer. And it's incredibly complicated. It takes longer to make a beaded trim than it does to hand make a couture style jacket. So yeah, a lot of effort went into it, but it was totally worth it in my opinion. But then on the next one, this is inspired by a couple of years ago. Valentino was all very colour blocked and fabulous, and I had this silk for the lining that I just showed you, and it's sort of stained in all different rainbow colours, in gorgeous colours. So I used that as inspiration to do this colour blocked grouped beaded trim. And yeah, I loved making the beaded trims, absolutely loved it, because it's so technically challenging and also creative, because I mean, how do you get it to look balanced when you're working on such an unusual canvas? Anyway, but yeah, just hand stitching the beaded trim onto a jacket is the most challenging thing ever. And the tight turnaround of doing one video a week, back then I was doing one video a week, it was a bit much for me. And this one, it's grey, but this is a lint and tweed, and it's sort of all different greys, and there's also some black, really thin velvet ribbon in there, and some blue tweed sort of yarn that looks like sailing rope or something. And my machine did not like this because it was so many different, like there was some really soft cushy yarns, and there were some ribbons that were really like super hard, like the rope bit and the velvet, and it was just like driving a Formula One car over a road with lots of potholes in it. It was a nightmare to sew, but it was, yeah, I'm really happy with the end product. Next we have this Gucci green. It's actually a lint and tweed, but yeah, again, I'm only going to show you it briefly because I made the jacket a month or two before I did the beading, so I'll show you it again when I do the beading. Next up, see, yeah, it broke me doing all those beaded trims. They're just so incredibly complex. And yeah, so I decided I'd never actually done an all over beaded jacket before, but I'd seen this Dolce & Gabbana one that it's kind of like glue gun stuff stuck on there. But yeah, this one, like hand stitching on the beaded trim, it was too much. So I was like, well, maybe I'll just try doing an all over embellished one. And it ended up using pretty much the same amount of beads, different sort of beads that I'm using up. But I had like, at the start of last year, I think I had 11 boxes of beads, and, you know, most of those boxes were storage boxes. So it was an excess amount of beads. I sort of had, just collected them forever. And I decided I was going to use them before buying anything else. So yeah, I did that one, and it was a huge success in my books. I absolutely loved the way that it turned out. So then these are the ones that I made next, all three of these, because all over beading isn't the most cinematic thing. It's basically just sitting there forever at your desk, doing like sewing a bead on, then re-sewing it so that it stays, and then picking up another bead and sewing it on, and then re-sewing it. So it's kind of the same thing over and over and over again. So I ended up putting the footage of making all these three into one video. So there is so much work in this video. It's ridiculous. And I was actually getting a bit better at videoing too. So that's the problem when you're making a sewing channel. You're not just learning how to sew while stopping every 2 seconds to photograph or film something. You also have to focus on taking good shots, and you can't like redo it, because once you've cut something up or once you've done something, you can't go, oh, I'll just pull all that off and, you know, do a reshoot. So yeah, it was really frustrating for me because I wanted to do a better job than I was doing, but I also, you know, just simply did not have the time or the resources to. So yeah, I was getting better though. So yeah, and I absolutely love the way all of those three turned out. Again, you can just see the videos. I think we're in the second quarter of last year now. So yeah, you can see, just go to the Q2 from 2020 2, and yeah, you'll see it. So this one is Barbie Learns to Code. I absolutely love this one. For the longest time, I did not know what to do with this tweed because it's brown and black with pink and white dots, but pinks in all different pinks, like grayish, musty brown pinks as well as fluoro pinks. Oh, it was such a challenge, and I'm so glad that I did it. And this is ruby red. This one's called Ruby Red. I did that with all over glass pearls. It is so decadent, but it also, from far away, it just looks like a plain jacket. So I tend to always be in meetings with people who have zero interest in fashion. So I get to be, you wear something luxe, but it also looks plain enough to be acceptable to them. This, on the other hand, oh my gosh, I love this one. I call it the little armadillo because armadillo is Spanish for little armored one. And I just love, and a lot of people say fashion is an armor, and I just love the way those green beads over that orange Chanel tweed. I don't know, there's something about it. It is so me, that jacket, because it's still really understated and not a lot of people understand it. They're just like, that's so basic and horrible, but I love it. And it's incredibly complex and was very, very technically challenging to make. Speaking of, I finally got to use up my gold vintage sequins, and I had been collecting them for the longest time. And there's also some gold filigree beads, and just I got to use up some really, really beautiful things in that one. So yeah, that's the Gucci green, I call that one, even though I ended up putting gold on it. This one is hilarious. In August this year, I'm going to do the beading for it because I've decided each August I'm going to do an Edinburgh jacket, and this is going to be the next one. But yeah, it's just a plain basic khaki and black tweed from Linton Tweeds in the UK. And I absolutely love the hilarious Italian silk that I used for the lining. It's sort of an animal print. So fabulous. Then in June, I made those 3 summer skirts. And then the next one was, this is another Chanel tweed. And I just put ivory glass pearls all over it. Originally, when I made this, I did put a beaded trim on it. And it had sort of lace flowers as well as crystals and white and cream beads. And it was just too mother of the bride for me. It attracted attention and I prefer things that are really understated. And this is just incredibly, it just took so much work, and it's so luxurious, but it doesn't look it. It just looks really plain if you don't know what you're looking at. And I love that sort of look, And now let's look at something completely the opposite end of the spectrum. If you remember the pink Valentino jacket that I made with the beaded trim in the colour blocked grouped colours, this is the same tweed but in a different colorway. So that one was pinks, and this is peach with undertones of blue and pink, I think. And yeah, I made the jacket one week, and then the next week I did the beading, and it's just really experimental. It's more of a sampler rather than a jacket that I would wear every day because it's too singular. I don't like wearing things that are so ostentatious. But to do all this work on a jacket was really valuable. And it's good because you can test the weights of things and see what they look like together and juxtaposing things. Yeah, I found it really worthwhile, and a great addition to the collection, but I probably wouldn't wear it. So next are the orange and the Monet, and these are both on the same Linton tweed. I think one is facing one horizontal and the other one is facing vertical. And this one I also handmade a trim out of matching yarns that I bought. Some of them were from Linton Tweed and others are from different places. Linton doesn't sell yarns anymore. And then I over beaded it with The orange one, I'd been going to use those orange and yellow beads on the orange Chanel, but then I changed it to the green. And then once I'd finished that one, a while later I made the Monet one, and oh my goodness, I just love the Monet one. The Monet one, this front one, I did the bugle beads first, and then yeah, it just didn't feel like enough after I'd done the orange one, so then I added all the pastel beads. Next I did a floral jacket, and this is the base jacket, and it's made out of gauze or muslin in black. And that was so difficult to work with because it just sort of kept fluttering off everywhere. And then the underside is 2 layers of green netting. So yeah, it was really difficult to make just because you had this really hard sort of plastic-like netting, 2 layers of that, and then this fluttery, really, really light, delicate black fabric over the top, but it looked fabulous. And then this bit of footage is really useful. I use it in most of my how to make a jacket videos to show how I do the shoulders to get them so nice and clean. And then after that was one video, and then the next was me turning that base jacket into a floral jacket. And oh my goodness, I love this jacket so much. It's bead clusters, so you sort of make them up individually and then you wrap them in tulle and then you stitch them to the jacket and then you add all the flowers as well. So it's actually much heavier than you would think. The flower jacket videos that I make are never very popular, but I just love these jackets. They have so much work and so much technique in them, and I think they're beautiful. I understand that it's so much easier to just buy a glue gun and just, glue some flowers on, and a few hours later you've got something you can photograph Instagram worthy. But to me, this is something that it did take forever, but it's going to also last a lifetime. So next we have one of my navy Chanel tweeds. This is the third of my 4 navy Chanel tweeds that I made into a jacket. And it's a really classic one, blue and white, but there's also some shots of black and purple in there as well, and a royal blue. It's beautiful, but it's really complex, but it looks quite simple. And I did a snow dump beading on top of it, and some of the beads are actually tiny ceramic skulls, and I absolutely love it. I'm so proud of this one, and I think it looks so much like a snow dump. I love it. When you stand under the veranda and then there's snow slides off the roof. Yeah. Oh, and then I'm pretty sure this is my favourite one. This is so August last year I did Chanel month, and and August also happens to be the month when in Edinburgh they have like 6 mega festivals on at the same time. So there's just tourists, it's summer, so there's tourists absolutely everywhere. And I don't know, when you live in Edinburgh, it's like hell on earth, but when you've moved away, it's the month where you get most homesick, ironically. So I made this, my Edinburgh. It's just such a weird mix of colours, the jacket, but I knew I could make something beautiful with it. So this is, I've been collecting beads pretty much my whole life. So this is me cherry picking all the odd and interesting and weird beads and expensive ones and putting them all on one jacket. And if you've been to Edinburgh, this is it's the sandstone buildings with little bits of moss, and I just love it. It just represents so many positive things. Like, it takes so long to find a Chanel tweed and be able to purchase it, and then this bead collection, literally it's taken decades of my life to collect all of these and to be able to use them in because I love secondhand stores as well, and old buildings and antiques. I just love it. I love what it says. I love the way it turned out, and I love how much technique is in there, and you can't really you just sort of see this old thing. It's fabulous. So then next I made a dress, sort of like a black one from Breakfast at Tiffany's. Then I made a bright coloured shirt. Then it was time for another Chanel tweed. This one is 2 greens and pink. And yeah, I don't like the beading. I'm going to take it off and do green beading. I mean, it's beautiful. And if I was being paid a massive amount to make it for someone else, then I'm sure they would love it, but I don't. So I'm going to remake it. And this is another Italian tweed, like the first purple one that you saw. This is a different colorway, but it's from the same weavers. And yeah, I just love it. I did it for October, so Halloween month. And this is another Chanel one that I started doing but didn't finish. It's loads of different white beads. Yeah, that one's still waiting to be finished. Next, I did a video on a whole bunch of puffy sleeve shirts. I gathered them, pleated them down in various ways, finding the best way. Once I made 2 shirts, and that's pretty much the method I've used since then. Then I'm upcycled. It was a sewing challenge, upcycle something. So I got this bubble wrap in a delivery and I decided to turn it into a jacket. And then next, decided to put my newly acquired pleating and puff sleeve knowledge to the test, and I made a comme des garçons inspired jacket out of this fabric. I always get asked. I bought it from Fabworks in the UK. Yes, they deliver everywhere around the world, and they sold out almost immediately after I bought it, but they may have restocked and they have other lovely things. So yeah, I absolutely love this jacket. I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to bead it with sequins and beads, and it's, yeah, sort of in splotches. And yeah, I love it as it is, but it's going to be even more spectacular once I actually finish it. And the Daphne, I love it. So beautiful. Okay, then next, actually, before I show you the next tweed jacket, what I did next was a sewing challenge for Gunny Sacks Halloween. So Halloween Gunny Sacks dress. And I didn't like that, so I made the same pattern again, but with puffy sleeves and in a fabric I would absolutely wear. So it's a vintage bamboo print. And I love that one. And so I called it the bamboo dress from then on. And then I made this, it's a Marc Jacobs tweed, metallic in blue, white, silver, and browny orange, burnt orange. And it's just fabulous. I love this so much. And there's a digital print Italian silk as the lining, and yeah, I just love it. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to bead it, but it is a really, really lovely tweed, and I'm glad I made the jacket. Next, I made a vintage Vogue dress from 1939, and I love that one to bits. Then for November, I had Pretty in Pink month, and it was just me making a bunch of different vintage dresses, because my absolute favorite outfit in that movie is the pink vintage dress that her best friend wears and gives her, and then she rips it apart. Well, I like the pink vintage dress, so I was like, ooh, let's make a bunch of different vintage dresses. So that is what I did. And I'm not going to show you them all because I feel like I just made a video of that. So if you go to the playlist, if you do want to see them, go to the Everything I Made In playlist, ... and they're all there. The October, November, December one, you will just be able to see a whole bunch of dresses. The Everything I Made in December video, either you probably just saw it a week or two ago, or yeah, it's in there in that playlist as well. So anyway, at the end of November, I made this jacket, and for the longest time, I have not been able to work out how I should bead this one. But then I was looking at jackets on Pinterest, and these are vintage Christian Lacroix, and oh my goodness, they are it. So I'm going to, go with gold and bead that one. I have been carefully packing away all the jackets as I've gone through them. And we're almost done. We're in December. So this is the last tweed jacket that I made for last year. And it's just this gorgeous mix of loads of colours. I made it in December because it's got gingerbread in there as well as all the pinks and the dark reds. So yeah, and I make a gingerbread dress later on. And then I made this gingerbread house jacket. I didn't bead it until January. But yeah, if you want to see all the dresses that I made, because I did do Vlogmas, there's a playlist for Vlogmas and everything I made in that. And then there's also the playlist for the video for everything I made in December 2022. And I feel like I just finished that one. So yeah, I won't go into too much detail, but I absolutely love this gingerbread house jacket. I think I'll make a different one each year. So that's what the gingerbread corduroy is for. I think next year I'll do one out of corduroy, perhaps. But I really do love this. It's just sort of a hessian fabric that you're supposed to wrap your Christmas tree base in, I think. But yeah, I used it to make a jacket. So there we go. That is everything I made in 2022. Actually, I think the patchwork dress made it in under the wire. And I also made that in 2022. Again, everything I made in December video, I go into great detail. And there's also an entire episode on the patchwork dress. But yeah, I just did so much work that I'm proud of last year. These all over beading, they do take a lot of effort and structurally to maintain the structural integrity of the jacket so that it ages well over the next decade or two. That did take a lot of work, but yeah, I'm just so proud of what I figured out and what I made. And yeah, so they look pretty, but also I feel like my technical skills were vastly improved just by having to create, having to have some finished thing at the end of each week. It really forces you to, produce things and do them in a way. I guess you can cut corners if you want, but for me, the point was to challenge myself and improve my skill set, and I really feel like I achieved that. And I also got a lot better at documenting my work. I mean, I still have a ways to go, but it's definitely better. By the way, it's March 2023 when I'm recording this, and I've only just started doing the first beaded jacket of this year. So yeah, looking at all of these again inspired me definitely to do more. It's so much work beading jackets, but the finished product is so completely worth it. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and let me know in the comments which is your favorite jacket. My problem is that whenever I look at a different bit of footage, like, I love the yellow flower jacket, or I love this one, this with the spikes and the amazing tweeds. And yeah, I guess because you spend so much time making a jacket and then beading it, you just get to appreciate all the different yarns in the tweed and every tiny minute detail. So yeah, I really do love my entire collection. So some people say, oh, you can't possibly love them all, give me some. And rude. But also, yeah, I do appreciate every single one because I've just put so much time and effort into each of them. Anyway, thanks again for watching, and I hope you've been inspired to make your own Chanel style jackets.